So this is Look at It This Way. We are welcoming one of the founding members of Fly on a Wall, uh, one of my very first and biggest artist influences. And I've had like the pleasure to see her as a icon and then a mentor and then a friend. And then the capacity that we get to be in each other's lives keeps growing. But this is just a really wonderful person, like the Queen of Queens, the Empress card, the Moon. This is Nicole Johnson. Hi.
Well, hi. Wow, what an inter
It's true though, right? I knew you for a while.
Yeah, we have known each other for a while, and yeah, it's been quite a journey. I feel
Mhm.
very lucky.
Oh, shucks. I was thinking about your dance journey. So I think if people see you like in recent years, your movement is informed by like such softness and uh, improv and a lot of spontaneity, but you come from a very like a background with a lot of forms to it. Like you've done, you talk about like what your dance education looked like.
Um, yeah, I began at like a small dance studio, and my first love was really tap.
Mm,
Um, and I think that sense of like rhythm and noise making, even though it got like very squished at a big part of my journey, like I can see that really coming back, and I can see those little arcs where it keeps like coming in. Like I love the sound of the body and the breath against other sounds and like the rhythmic pattern of it. Um, so I think it's really always stayed with me, even when I thought it was kind of gone. So yeah, it was like tap and jazz and ballet and all the things. I didn't like ballet. It was like slow and boring. And kind of going through that whole journey, I went into like competition dance, and that was just so fun because you get to get on stage so often and perform. And I loved performing. I think I immediately felt that thing that you feel when your soul and like your light is connecting with the people. It's just connecting with people, and or
mhm.
you're just sharing it, and just like kind of sending it out, and you don't know where it's going to land. And I now looking back on it, like I think that's what I loved about performance, from a really really early age. And so as I was doing all of that, I realized I needed like better technique in order to kind of make it, quote, make it. And
Yeah,
that's when
yeah.
I started getting into ballet. It was never, I don't really think it was for the love of it in the beginning. It was just really practical.
Mm,
And as I started getting into ballet, I just saw, I guess, how far the technical like machine could go. And
mhm.
that started to pull me in. I was like, oh my gosh, these people can do things like that I can't even figure, I don't even know how to do with my body.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then then I was like in the ballet world, and for better or for worse, um like really started like deep into the ballet journey, and then I was still kind of doing like jazz and musical theater and all these other things on the side, and I started kind of living this dual life of like the ballet world and then like the secret like other world. And I
Mhm.
felt like a fraud in both worlds because each world thought I was um, good in the other one. As like in the
Yeah.
ballet dancer world, they were like, "Oh, she's the musical theater jazz dancer," and then I would go
Yeah.
into the jazz musical theater world, and they were like, "Oh, she's the ballet dancer." And I wasn't actually like good at either world. I was always good at the world I wasn't in at the moment.
Mm. First of all, it totally makes sense that tap was one of your first loves because if there's an opportunity to bring like any kind of shaker or any kind of like a little drum or tambourine in a
Oh
room,
my
you
God,
bring
yes.
it. So now I'm like, oh yeah, she's just trying to tap some more.
I'm just
Uh,
trying to tap the air.
tap. But I also think one of the things I was going to get to is I think like you use this word duality, and I was thinking like you just kind of found a harmony with it, but you do have this theme of your life of like this very intuitive, like spiritual side, and then this other practical side that has to happen at the same time, and like these like like raising a child, like working with competition dancers, like teaching, but then also keeping up all your spiritual artistic practices at the same time. Um, and maybe at first it felt like they were dual. You've always had to have like dual energies, but I was
Mhm.
going to eventually talk about like what does it feel like to kind of live in a space where you're constantly merging seemingly competing ideas.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's been like the biggest theme maybe of the last decade, but like hugely in the last year. Um, for me is like I think I got to a point where I was living such separate worlds. Like I always would hide the competition world from the ballet world. And then as I got older, I would hide like even my job in the competition world from my job in like the quote art world and like the high art and the like more commercial side. Like they always had to be separate because it didn't seem like one valued the other or yeah, and I just really got to a point where like that it was like a breaking point and I was like, "Oh, I can't continue to not integrate these parts of myself because they are parts of me." And as I started integrating them more, and I mean, obviously, I think there's more work to be done there, but that was like a healing for me. And it's also, I mean, it's in the dance world, it's in everything. There's just the polarities of our planet are just so extreme. And then you realize that actually, like, there's more similarities than differences. And in the beautiful breaths that like one brings to the other are really where the it's where the harmony is. And um yeah, that's just a big thing I've been learning is how can I stop trying to separate these things and all of these different parts of me and because they're already influencing each other. And so it's like, well,
Yes.
why don't I just admit it to myself and like bring them together in more ways because it'll feel better and it'll probably be better for everybody.
Yeah. And like I'm the type I love compartmentalizing because there's so much safety there when you can hold one thing off
Mm,
or like, you can't bleed into the other thing. But
yes.
like there's safety, but there's also like another thing that can happen if you do let them kind of bleed a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
only
the safety. That's exactly why you do it. And then but it also gets to be suffocating or it gets exhausting. It takes a lot of energy.
yeah. The other thing I think you're known for in my life is your sense of intuition and how much you're able to call upon that. Is that something you've always had is just or something like you've worked for that like when you make decisions or when you like have gut feelings, do you always have strong gut
Mm.
feelings and just chose to follow them, or were you like, I want to start trusting my gut more and like focusing on harnessing that?
Wow, that's such an interesting reflection. I don't know that that's I might, I don't know if I'm going to answer this well.
And you don't have to answer it. Yeah, just
Yeah,
how,
I'm just one because I'm like, do I trust my gut? I mean, I think as any person who's getting older, I think we're all encouraging ourselves to trust our intuition more.
Mhm.
Um, and those knowings, those things that you know, and then you put off and you put off and you put off, and then you do it. And like, okay, well, I could just decrease the amount of putting off from that initial instinct. But I think it's something I'm just still working on. I mean, it's great. I love to hear that you feel like I really trust my instinct a lot. And I'm like, do I? I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, I guess it's something that I'm just working on. I mean, everything's led us to where we are now. So
Yeah.
there must have been some.
Yeah, and like I'm thinking about Fly being a place where you can kind of make gut decisions. I've seen you in Fly uh make decisions based off of like a gut feeling of maybe like right or wrong or gut feeling of like it feels like we should move, this is where we're moving creatively or
Mm,
this feels like a focus. So I've seen you make decisions, especially with our organization, based on like feeling.
yeah.
Uh, I think that's a good model that like not a
Thanks.
lot of businesses do, but I think you do well.
Thanks. And you know what I think it is in Fly, there's so much safety and trust within the group of us that
Hmm.
and I think like just the frequency that we're vibrating at really allows that to like come forward.
Hmm.
Um, I hope for all of us. Definitely, I feel that for me. Like I feel like I can very easily speak my truth, and even if it's like a really difficult one, it maybe only takes me like a day or two to be like, okay, no, I just need to say my truth because I know I can be heard and it will be received so easily there. So I think that really has to do with the space and that we've all created there.
Yeah.
And I want to do that more in other spaces in my life, you know?
And you're right, that moment though, like even you have a hard truth that you maybe want to share with like a collective or something like that. You said like give it time and then come back to it, like sleeping on something first and then being like, okay, am I about to disrupt this thing? Is it worth it? Let me sleep on it and then decide, was that a reactionary kind of a feeling or is that really how I feel?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's and also thinking about like Fly and the formation of Fly, is there any looking back, uh it's been around for like 10 years. You've been with this organization. Are there particularly like proud moments that you've had along this like kind of journey?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like some of the moments I've felt the most proud of the platform is when I've been able to see these moments that we've handed it over to artists and just see the work that they make.
Mm.
And yeah, like some of the summer resident artist folks, like stepping in and seeing what they had to share after like 4 weeks of being in the space and just seeing the depth and the power of their voice come through has like brought me down like, I mean, to tears is the wrong word, but it's just like it just brought me into this like space of just gratitude for what we've created together and love because it's sometimes it's just easier to see when it's outside of yourself,
Yes.
than the things that you make that you're like inside of and you judge and you do all of that stuff that is not super useful. um yeah, so I think those are the moments that I've felt with like the most resonance.
Yeah, it's like cheesy, but it is like you see someone else take off with like the resources you're giving, and you're like, that's makes it all worth it. And it really does. It it really feels that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like going forward with Fly, are there things you're in directions that you're possibly like really excited to explore or things you're looking forward to in this new year?
I am, yeah, I'm just so excited for this new year. Within the journey of like our planet and Fly and my personal journey, like I think they've just kind of converged into a place where I'm like really, really eager to get back into performing and making and like dancing and sound and just like all of it. And so um yeah, between 2020 and like that whole, there's plenty of things to be said about that.
Mhm.
But then following with me having a child, like Theo's now getting to be like just about 3, and I'm this last year has been kind of this return to myself in a way, but also not who I was before, like seeing who
Mhm.
I am now. And there's just been a lot of like stripping away of fear. I can't say all fear is gone, but a whole lot less than I was working with, and it feels so much lighter. And yeah, I'm just like really eager to be in performance, to also to merge like these spiritual parts of myself with the dance part of myself, like another compartmentalization that I'd always like kept separate. So healing work with performance, spirituality and channeling, sonic work, and just the blending of these worlds right now is just like so fun for me, and it's something I'm loving doing just in my home and trying to find ways to like send it to people because it's like that little kid again. I'm like, oh, I want to share it. I want these like this energy that feels so real and so rich right now. I want to share it with others. So I'm really excited to do it. And
Yeah. Yeah. And also I never thought about like if you had a your like Theo around like 2021 or around there or like 2020.
Yeah, it's 2022.
Yeah, like around that time where a lot of people are going through so much transformation because of all that's happening in that time, and you had to put a lot of energy towards Theo at that time. And like so now you're coming out where you don't have to put not a 24/7 watch, a little bit more relaxed. So now
Yeah.
you get to look at what has happened along that journey and like seeing
Yeah.
yourself again for the first time kind of thing. That's a
Yeah.
meaning.
They definitely like bundled together as like right as people were emerging out, I was like went back under for another round of like deep work and
Yeah.
learning and like literally my whole mind and worldview being blown open. It was like, yeah, it was um like just my brain exploded about what I thought. I mean, obviously it's like there's a lot to do having a kid, but for me what was the most shattering was the just the shattering of like more belief systems and worldviews.
Mm.
Um, and that would like really, it really rocked me. Um, and there was practical changes I just had to make in my life, a lot of practical changes. Um, so
Yeah. And I
yeah,
also think like those practical decisions are having to be made, or um like we want to keep all these energy channels open, and we want to like keep all these connections to higher selves and other versions of ourselves open. But when practical things kind of take precedent, you do have to kind of pick and choose where your energy goes. And I think that's like important to
yeah,
acknowledge for people, you can't stay up in the clouds. You got to put that
yeah,
foot down every once in a while.
yeah. And I'd put it down really for just quite a while. I mean, it's always there on some level, but it's so funny. Like I keep thinking about the phrase like remembering to remember
Mm,
because yeah, remember to remember, because when you re-remember these things you're like, ah, I learned that before, how did I not remember that? Or even things that I'm getting back into and doing, it feels like I'm doing them for the first time and I'm like, wait, I was into that like 10 years ago, like, but from a different angle. And this like this the forgetting, the constant forgetting is so wild, and I'm really interested in forgetting less. um
yeah,
at the moment, I don't know. I like forgetting too. Maybe I take that back.
you're right though. There's something about when we return to things that we thought we'd gotten over, we return to like feelings that we thought we left behind. We're like, surely we dealt with this. And it's like, nope, it's right there.
It's right there. And but it's so interesting with like with the way you're thinking about it at the moment. I'm thinking about those like lessons that reapproach or relationships, and I think of them like this spiral. So you like learn it and then it like comes back around. It's like, oh, why don't you try it again a little differently from over here? Or try it again. Like, oh, like there's that spiral. But then there's that same thing about these like beautiful openings as well that I hadn't really thought about. And how those spiral back around and you can look at them differently or from a different perspective as um like a new gift. Hmm, I
When
don't
I think
know.
about that, when I think about the spirals, it makes me nervous because where's the directionality? Like, if it's really only doing the loop, the loop, the loop, are we going up with the loop eventually? Are we going down? Are we going inside? Are we going outward? That I know that seems abstract, but I know you're with me.
Man,
Like,
yeah.
is this going somewhere still? Is it a growth? Surely it's a growth. There won't be if I resign to not having an arrival, I still want to know more about the journey in total, you know?
Yeah. I it's like all in your approach. I don't know.
It is. It has to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you the type of person who do like New Year's resolutions?
I do a bit more like solstice, I guess, kind of reflections and then um I don't know, just evaluating, reflecting. I mean, I think like maybe not everybody, like I always want to eat healthier in the new year, but it's just like you feel it's like there's just so many things going on in the holidays. You just eat food that you don't normally eat.
Yeah.
And you're like, God, I got to do a cleanse. So
Yes.
that's just, I think maybe that's just a cycle of life for everyone.
It's weird when holidays line up with like when we're supposed to be these healthy versions of ourselves.
I don't really like even candy. I mean, I was eating cheese puff balls yesterday. It's just things I would never eat. And you're just
Yeah.
like, yeah. So yeah, of course, I think that's a part of the new year. Yeah, a big part of my resolution for the new year is allowing more versions of myself to die. Like,
Mm.
allowing ways that I see myself. in ways that I allow myself to be seen by others, I think is a big part of that. To let those versions of myself die so that new parts of me can emerge.
That's
Um,
what I'm interested in there. Why are you why hold on to the old version? What's the benefit of like keeping the old version? Why is it hard to let go?
yeah, I think I mean, I think it all kind of comes down to fear.
Hmm.
And I guess I was thinking about things that I wanted to, bring into my life, like how I wanted to be. And what is mommy doing? Mommy's talking about versions of herself. Do you want to say hi? Go away.
Bye.
Well, so I was thinking about um, yeah, why do we keep them? Yeah, in order to, I guess, keep ourselves safe, but also, uh, yeah, I was just thinking about the ways that I allow myself to be seen by other people. Like part of that is a construct that part, part of that is a construct that we create and have to release if we want to make changes, with
Mhm.
those relationships or with how we want to like step into these like new versions of our life. um I don't know if I explained that the way I
Yeah.
was intending to.
No, and I'm thinking about it. Does it have something to do with uh how people, you said like how people view you, so I'm wondering about like how much other people's gaze or how much other people's perspective of you has like formed a self that you want to kind of let go.
Yeah.
Uh I'm thinking it sounds like an interesting kind of prompt to think about, so I just wanted to get more information about.
My heart, heart, yeah, heart. Yeah, I think, I mean, I feel like we all do that in a way. We're shaped not only by the ways that we see ourselves, but also by the ways that we allow ourselves to be seen by others.
Hmm.
And yeah, the ways that we allow ourselves, I mean, it's all being created by how we see each other. So, if we're saying like we are mirrors for each other, then my relationship with you is a version of, you're reflecting parts of me back at me. And
Hmm.
then I see those parts of me and I create a version that I, in a way, perform for you. And so it starts to get like so convoluted. Um,
But I think it's also the nature of like how a self has to exist in relation to another. Like,
yeah. And like how it's constructed, because
yes.
we are constructing these identities based on I mean, yeah, we are constructing them. And in order to, I guess, reconstruct them, you've got to deconstruct them.
Yeah, I mean, also like negation is the first way to identify something like the I am because I am not everything else. I am like if I was the color blue and the color red existed, the way you would define blue as being not red. It's just the only other color. And so if
Yeah.
there's a third color, you'd be like, okay, I'm the color that's not red or yellow. So it's just like a bunch of selecting what parts do make sense or do you want to hold in that mirror and which parts you want to uh, are necessary to like kind of cut out to create this other self. So yeah, it makes sense
Yeah.
that like
It's
through
too
time,
individual.
through the dimension of time now, you can kind of edit out parts of yourself that no longer define.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, I'm being this way for this person because, or yeah, I'm presenting this version of myself.
Hmm.
Um, and, and then I'm like, oh, wait, is that me? Or what parts of that? I mean, all of it, of course, all of it is and isn't. But like, yeah, just taking a closer look at like what those versions are and saying like, what of that do I want to hold on to? And what of that do I actually want to let go of
Yeah.
and let die? Um, so yeah,
That's a,
that's my New Year's resolution.
yeah, and is that something you think how do you make that work feel light or how do you make it feel not uh
Overwhelming.
yeah.
I guess it just. I guess with all of it, I think about like, I don't know, just like whole, I'm just doing hand gestures, which don't
I
translate
realized
well.
we need to do a disclaimer that we've been using our hands a lot this whole time.
Yeah. I
So,
think it's like holding it with a lightness because you can only do so much each day, and that's fine. And so each little bit that happens is great work. It's like,
mm,
I've done a little bit, I chipped away a little bit, fantastic. I went 4 steps backwards, fantastic. It's like I just keep kind of holding it lightly because it's not going to move any faster than it's going to move, you
yeah,
know?
100%. Really good observation. Well, I really like that kind of idea to end on. Do you have anything you want to like let people know? Like maybe like any last minute. What's it? The last thing, maybe like give somebody advice for like how to follow their gut.
Okay, my biggest advice. Okay, this is something I learned. My child is running in the room.
That's okay.
Um, but I have advice. Theo, come here. I'm gonna give some advice. Do you want to help me? Theo, I'm on an interview and you're gonna help me out here. Give some advice, okay? So integration.
Yes.
Okay, so what was it? I gotta get my focus back. The advice. Oh, feeling, gut. So I was thinking about this sounds so stupid, but how feeling, I was like, I just realized this summer that feeling uh is not like a metaphor. Like you actually feel things in your body, which of course I've been doing my entire life. This is why I move. This is why I dance to move my emotions and my soul through my body in order to like feel myself. But it finally like dawned on me. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling things. My body's giving me messages.
Mm,
And so I would say like when it comes to trusting your gut, like actually tune into your body. Do you feel like sweaty? Is your heart jittery? Is there a pinch in your stomach? Like it's actually your feeling body trying to talk to you and give you like hello, hello. And like
yeah.
the more I tune into that and listen to that, I'm like, oh wait, how am I feeling right now? And what do those things in my body like if I sit with that for a little bit or even move with that so I can let it move through my body and out, then I know a little bit more how I want to move with that idea and like in the world.
Yeah.
Um,
Instead of like moving to the head or to the thinking space, take the time to
yes,
be like, actually, it's in here somewhere.
it's in here. And I always wanted to like figure it out in my headspace. Be like, oh, I had this like deep emotional thing or this like issue with someone. Let's put it in my headspace, figure it out, doon, 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 and I can analyze it and I'll quote know how to act. But um yeah, just spending more time in like the feeling space and the actual feeling of the body
Mm,
has been, yeah, it's a big interest right now.
yeah, no, that's great advice. That's gonna help somebody.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, so that's all I have. Happy holidays. I'll talk to you soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I love you a lot. And thank
Love
you
you.
so much for thank you so much for taking the time
No problem.
just to
Thank you.
talk with me.